So we wanted to say that we are not really sure, but 90% sure that the Cannonau was the real origin of the Grenache in France and the Garnacha in Spain. I'm very proud to say this just because I want to remember everybody that the viticulture in the world born in the Mediterranean.
Hello, Keti.
Ciao, Salvatore.
Nice to meet you.
Very nice meeting you today.
Thanks to be here.
Ciao, Seller and friends. So very happy to be here.
All right, thanks a lot, Keti. You know, it's our style not having prepare any questions.
No, it's a conversation, I hope.
It's a conversation between friends and colleagues.
Okay, good.
Because I know you represent a beautiful winery also from Sardinia.
Yes.
And maybe you can explain us
Absolutely.
what are the grape varieties of indigenous grape variety of Sardinia. Any insights?
Okay, yes, I'm happy. I'm following this project that is a project that we follow since 5 years now, and developing like new project for Italian wineries. One of these is Argiolas, and I'm very proud to work for them because it's a beautiful family. It's producing wine since 80 years, 1938. Last year we celebrate successfully with a lot of enthusiasm 80 years of our activities, and is a magic atmosphere, is a magic family because it's something very new. When we talk about Sardinia, first of all, the people asking me where we are, and I say, okay, in the middle of Mediterranean Sea, and I have to explain that it's a beautiful wild highland surrounded by 360 degrees by the Mediterranean, with a different viticulture, with a different culture, and also with a special climate, but many different names when you describe the grapes, because we produce just native grapes. So sometimes it's a little bit complicated in Asia, but people now start to be curious, and this is exciting me. At the beginning it was tough, and I was enjoying to tell the story of the family and underline very much the name as Argiolas. But when we go deeper, sometimes I saw sommelier or customers a little bit lost, because when I talk about Vermentino, the beginning, people, Vermentino, where is Vermentino? What is Vermentino?
Vermentino is already well known.
Exactly, it was already well known, but I arrived from London in Asia, and I was surprised that nobody did a great job for Italian culture when we talk about wine. People, they know pizza and pasta, and sometimes they don't go over this, so they generalize Italy, but you can't, because Italy is a country, plenty of diversity, and this is not really what is the right message. So what we have to do, me, you, all the people following this beautiful project, is try to do as much as possible more wine education.
Yes,
so when we talk about Argiolas, what we have to say, okay, family, and a family that is producing wine starting with 4 hectares, and now after 80 years we run more than 300 hectares. And then we are in the south of Sardinia. That is a beautiful wild place. Sometimes people, they don't know too much about this area, but we are not so far from Cagliari. Cagliari is the major city of Sardinia. In the north of Cagliari, 30 kilometers, in a small village, Serdiana, where the family is based, and also our cellar. We work with the local people, so we try to make as much as possible sustainable all the project, try to give good vibes and develop the area and give opportunity to people to come out and find interesting to support local business. And it's a family that grew up a lot in these years, focused just in the production of native grapes. So Vermentino, when we talk about the white, Nasco with a new project in Iselis estate, we do Nuragus is another beautiful white grape, and then naturally Cannonau, that is the most important red grape that is linked to the family of Grenache.
Sure.
So this, we use this.
It's good to say to our friends that Italy has a very large number of indigenous grape varieties.
Yes, too many sometimes.
396, I believe, registered.
Registered
variety. Yeah, we are not talking about the clone.
Exactly,
we are talking about
because we have many types of Sangiovese, many types of Nebbiolo. So when we talk about native grapes, almost 400 defined. Then there is many different biotype of the same native grapes.
Yes, correct.
this is the difficulties, because when you go to the sommelier,
but also the strength of Italian.
Yes, the diversity of our countries make us special, because every year, every region is different. Every 30 kilometers you find a different land, a different scenario, different climate, a different slang, different people, different food, and naturally different native grapes. And what happened in these 80 years, starting to produce just Vermentino or Cannonau, and then you develop and you focus a lot in the biodiversity of this territory, reallocating difficult grapes as Monica di Sardegna, Nasco, Nuragos. There is a lot of effort of the family to do this, because it's much more easy cultivate international grape, but they don't need, they have a land so rich of native grapes with beautiful characteristics. Why they need to change this type of viticulture and be modern in an era that the most important thing is be traditional.
So you focus on indigenous grape
just indigenous varietal. And what changed us, I think, is during the 80s when we met Giacomo Takis, when the family met Giacomo Takis, and they decided to do something really important for Sardinia, creating an expression of wine that can be the real flag of the winery around the world, expressing in a beautiful way that creating like the super Sardinia wine using indigenous grapes, so using Cannonau, using Garignan, using Bovale, using Malvasia Nera, so in a beautiful blend, and then born to Riga. And in '88, when we went out in the market, I guess that was the real surprise of Italian viticulture. This man, you know, Giacomo Takis, made the history of Italian wines. He was the father of Tignanello, Sassicaia, Milona Notte, Donna Fugata. You know, he is the man that created great wines around Italy, but he was also Sardinia. So when he met Argiolas family, he said, why we don't create something in Sardinia? And we do together. And it was the turning point of the family around the world. Yeah.
Maybe I believe the king of the red grape in Sardinia is Cannonau.
Yeah, it is.
Can you explain us what is Cannonau?
Cannonau is for sure the most important, well-known grape at this moment of Sardinia. Yeah. Our Cannonau is the Cannonau made in the south first. That is different than other area. When you go to the north, a little bit more altitude, different type of soil, different viticulture. Still beautiful, but different than us, that we work in a different area with different type of soil, different type of altitude in our estates, and not big altitude, because Sardinia is not popular to have like big mountains, but is the island of the wind. And what happened, you know, when an island of wind, that you can win in freshness for this, you know, having a little bit more difference and help the viticulture to support the hot season. Sardinia is a hot region, as all the island of Italy. So, you know, you don't have such a big difference in terms of microclimate. So you need to work very well in the land, work in a very natural way to keep as much as possible the biodiversity originally, the one that it is, and creating a very elegant expression of Cannonau. What the family did is, okay, we want a Cannonau that is, it's expression, powerful, everything. Like the history says, Sardinia wine, very powerful, very alcoholic, but at the same time, very drinkable. That is our daily wine. The grandfather of Valentina always say you have to drink a glass of good Cannonau per day. That also helping you to live longer, because also Sardinia is a blue zone area, so people, they have a beautiful life. You have a clean air, very safe, and the people, they have like very nice standard of life, good rhythm. They're not crazy, they don't live in big city. The biggest city is Cagliari, that is not so big. So it's a very beautiful way to live. You are surrounded by sea, you can have like long day during the weekend, relaxing with a clean air.
It's a beautiful region. What is the relation between Cannonau and Grenache?
The relation with between Cannonau and Grenache is a great competition on this that I'm very happy to say about. We had some feedback by New York Times with some documents like sourcing news about the real history, where the Cannonau born. And it is a competition because everybody say that a Grenache born in France or Garnacha in Spain.
But can we say that Cannonau is Grenache?
It's linked to the family of Grenache. Naturally, the biotype is the same story about the biotype,
yes.
but it's a native grape of Sardinia, cultivated since the Phoenician area. So seems that, honestly, born in Sardinia at the beginning of the viticulture as a Phoenician, they were the beginners of the viticulture in the world. And when Sardinia was naturally dominated by different populations, you know, Sardinia was an island that in Italy suffered as a Sicily, for example, with a lot of domination, French, Spanish, Hollands, many. And at the end, it seems that these people, when they arrive in our region, they export what they found in this beautiful island to their place. So it seems that they export the Cannonau, linked to the Grenache, as a biotype to France, so became Grenache, and then in Spain, Garnacha. So we wanted to say that we are not really sure, but 90% sure that the Cannonau was the real origin of the Grenache in France and the Garnacha in Spain. I'm very proud to say this just because I want to remember everybody that the viticulture in the world born in the Mediterranean.
So Cannonau, Grenache and Garnacha is the same biotype?
Yes, it's the same biotype with different characteristics. What is the difference? The area where you cultivate wine, of course.
Yeah.
And when you talk about an island, it's not the same way to conceive wine in south of France or in Spain. So, in Priorat, for example, Priorat is another example of a great expression of Garnacha. But different. The biotype is the same, it's adapting. The characteristic is adapting a grape to the territory.
Yes.
To give originally to the grape, to the land, with the characteristic of the area, which is the identity of a wine. To me now, in this moment of my life and my experience and living in Asia a lot, when we do many tasting, I try to see the face of this sommelier and understand if they real have the idea where we are, because where we are is the characteristic of what we do. We cannot produce wines or international grape in place where there is no reason to do it, because there is an adaptation, is a forced adaptation. To be sustainable needs to be sustainable of what we find, what is native there, and is making the difference in the characteristic of the wine. So Grenache is in France, the characteristic of this area, production like south of France or many of the area, Spain, and in Sardinia you find the characteristic of Grenache, that is the Cannonau, in Sardinia, with this type of soil, with this type of weather. The climate is different, and
what is called terroir.
The terroir, that's like the identity of the territory is totally important.
And if you have to pick a white grape variety, native grape variety from Sardinia.
But now in this moment I'm super impressed about the evolution of Nasco.
Nasco, I have tasted it, it's incredible.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, a wine that has a great potential also in terms of aging. That this one is Vermentino and Nuragos Decant. They're very beautiful and drinkable as a fresh wines, but they don't have a potential to express themselves in longevity for, you know, to create like a super white. I believe more in Nasco. In Argiolas we followed the beautiful project Isalis, that is one of the new projects of the family, where we cultivate just a couple of native grapes, and the white wine is Nasco. Incredible acidity, incredible expression of territory, complexity, more complex body, pairing very well with many different food. And then, you know, the beautiful things that happened in the last 20 years. Before, this grape was just used to be addressed to the production of sweet wine. And we created our own sweet wine, that is Argiolas, with this grape. And then see the opportunity to create a great white wine in a dry version and see the evolution. We had the vertical of the 5-6 years that we produce, gave us a lot of satisfaction, because you see the difference of every vintage, every harvest. You can keep the freshness of this grape, and you have the interesting evolution. And yeah, for me, yes, it's Nasco, the one that I pick.
Oh.
And I invite everybody to taste. And our Rizelis, I think, is a great expansion.
And I was so impressed, very impressed.
Oh, this is great. I'm happy.
Keti, thank you very much.
It is my pleasure.
For this,
I invite you to Sardinia. I invite all the friends of Cellar, Cellar and Friends, because Friends of Cellar is not working very well as Cellar and Friends, to visit us in Sardinia. We wait for you. We have a beautiful hospitality, and I think is the right key to complete this journey with me. Grazie Salvatore for the opportunity.
It was very nice to see you again.
Ciao, grazie. Grazie, ciao, ciao, ciao.